How's it going, everyone? It's Artifact, and I've got the hat to prove it. Today we're going to make a snare drum using Peter Griffin out of Family Guy. Let's have a little listen.
That's a heavy snare drum.
So would you agree that...
That's a heavy snare drum.
Or not? I mean, that's up to you. Basically, what I'm going to talk about today is these little guys here that I've made. Using this sample here.
That's a heavy snare drum.
Which I made by typing "That's a heavy snare drum, man" from the Family Guy voice by Peter Griffin. And it's...
That's a heavy snare drum in your face.
That's
That's
not...
a heavy snare drum. That's a heavy snare drumming, Brian.
Uh,
That's a heavy snare drum, man.
That's the one. That's the best one. Right, so I've found that. And then all I've done is I've put the sample into Quanta, which is a granular synth. But actually, any kind of sampler would work. I just wanted to play with the sample position and find the best little one-shot hit. Like, I've got a really itchy nose. Sorry. Find the best one-shot position that I could use to layer over the snare. So let's turn off all of the unwelcomed dinner guests here and just listen. Okay, still sounds pretty good. So what I've done is on Quanta, you know, whether you use this one or not, I found the exact position in the sample that I want to shoot from. And then, yeah, I've just tweaked the kind of settings here for a little bit of granular synthesis, to be honest. And just pitched it a little bit till it just kind of fit with the original snare drum, which has no kind of tone to it really, just a kind of poppy snare. But adding this over the top creates interesting possibilities for human enjoyment. Anyway, so let's say you've found a little part of the sample using granular synthesis or not. You found a little one shot and you want to layer it over the snare. You've played it in over the top of the snare. And now how can we post-process it to make it fit a little bit more and be a little bit nicer? I'm going to run you through my little effects chain here, and then I'm going to tease you at the end with this bass that I made, which is going to be a Patreon exclusive bass. Okay, limited slots remaining. Let's run through the processing. I've just turned it up here with a bit of gain. I have just cleaned up the kitchen sink just by taking out some of the low end. And then I have added a Kilohertz transient shaper. It's my favourite one. It just looks really nice and grey. Sustain is taken down a bit, and the speed has been tweaked a little bit just to get a bit, you know, get rid of the end of the sound a bit more, because I just want the front snappy part of it. Just shapes it to make it a little bit sharper, you know. Ring modulation, love this one. Add a bit of noise to the signal. Disperser, love this one. Add a kind of weird, sort of muffly kind of tail to the sound, but it's like a bit weird and lo-fi, and it introduces a bit of a long tail. So I'm going to take that out again. Just bear with me, I'm a bit crazy how I work. Anyway, formant filter. Add a bit of vocal tonality to it. More vocal tonality to an already vocalized vocal snare. Makes complete sense in my mind. Transient shaper again, like I said, just to cut that end part out again. And then a channel EQ again. I've just copied the same kitchen sink settings from the first one and just copied them over just to make sure we're taking out again like extra low end that was introduced perhaps by the other plugins. And at the end, a little bit of a fast ping pong delay to add a bit of a stereo effect to the sound. Now, isn't that very, very jolly for a snare layer? And then you can tell, you know, with my bass line and everything, it's kind of providing a melody to the track. And then I go on to copy everything over here, and I've just kind of tweaked the pitch and the sample start position very, very slightly on this second version here. So it's a slightly different... It just kind of drops down in pitch a little bit. But with my bass as well, you know, it's kind of like a lead element. So yeah, very, very interesting. I've just made a little tutorial on how I made this really perfect noisy bass, which is also a patch on my Patreon as of today. So like I said before, feel free to check that out. Anyway, I hope you learned a little bit about snare layering and using Peter Griffin in your songs. It's very, very important.
That's a heavy snare drum.
Let's continue to have fun making music and make some wicked sounds together.